Donald Trump is on a mission. He wants to eliminate what he calls wokeness from American schools. He sees it as a dangerous ideology that is poisoning the minds of young Americans. His plan is ambitious and controversial. He wants to fundamentally change what is taught in classrooms across the country. At the heart of Trump's plan is a ban on lessons about gender identity and structural racism. He believes these topics are divisive and inappropriate for school children. He wants to see them gone from the curriculum entirely. This ban extends to diversity and inclusion offices, which he sees as promoting a radical agenda. Trump's plan has sparked outrage from many educators and parents. They argue that these topics are essential for preparing students to live in a diverse and equitable society. They see Trump's plan as an attempt to whitewash history and silence marginalized voices. Despite the backlash, Trump is determined to push forward with his agenda. He believes that parents have the right to decide what their children learn in school. He is framing his plan as a fight for parental rights and a return to traditional values. Donald Trump understands the power of the purse. He knows that schools rely heavily on federal funding. He plans to use this leverage to force schools to comply with his education agenda. It's a classic carrot-and-stick approach. Schools that agree to ban lessons on gender identity and structural racism will be rewarded. Trump has promised them massive funding preferences. This means more money for textbooks, technology, and teacher salaries. It's a tempting offer for cash-strapped schools. But there's a catch. Schools that refuse to comply with Trump's demands will face serious consequences. He has threatened to cut off their federal funding entirely. This could be devastating for many schools, especially those in low-income communities. Trump's use of federal funding as a weapon has drawn criticism from both sides of the aisle. Some argue that it's an overreach of federal power. Others say it's a dangerous precedent that could harm students in the long run. Donald Trump has made a bold promise. He says that on his first day back in office, he will defund any school that does not comply with his education agenda. It's a powerful statement, but is it realistic? The feasibility of Trump's promise is debatable. Even some of his supporters acknowledge that he may not have the authority to unilaterally defund schools. The power of the purse ultimately rests with Congress. Moreover, defunding schools would likely face legal challenges. Opponents argue that it would violate the rights of students and interfere with local control over education. They are prepared to fight Trump's plan in court. Despite the skepticism, Trump remains defiant. He insists that he has the power to defund schools and that he will not hesitate to use it. His promise has energized his base and put pressure on schools across the country. Section 4. A chorus of criticism. Opponents decry Trump's education agenda. Donald Trump's education plan has been met with fierce opposition from a wide range of groups. Educators, parents, civil rights organizations, and even some conservatives have voiced their concerns. They see Trump's plan as a dangerous attack on public education. Critics argue that Trump's plan is based on misinformation and fear-mongering. They say there is no evidence of widespread liberal indoctrination in schools. They accuse Trump of creating a problem where none exists. Opponents also worry about the impact of Trump's plan on students, particularly those from marginalized communities. They argue that banning lessons on gender identity and structural racism will only serve to perpetuate ignorance and prejudice. The debate over Trump's education plan is likely to continue for months to come. It has become a flashpoint in the larger culture wars, with both sides deeply entrenched in their positions. Section 5. A new vision for education incentives and the department's fate. Donald Trump's education plan goes beyond banning certain topics. He also wants to reshape the entire education system, starting with the Department of Education itself. He proposes abolishing the department altogether, a long-standing goal of many conservatives. They believe that education should be controlled at the state and local level, not by the federal government. However, this move would have major implications for funding, especially for low-income students and special education programs. To incentivize states and schools to follow his vision, Trump offers massive funding preferences for those that implement certain policies. These include ending teacher tenure, implementing school choice programs, and allowing parents to elect principals. These proposals are controversial and face pushback from educators who feel they undermine the teaching profession and could harm public schools. Trump's plan represents a radical shift in American education, one that prioritizes parental control and a conservative worldview. Whether he can successfully implement these changes remains to be seen, but his proposals have undoubtedly ignited a national debate about the future of education in America.